Hey, welcome to another episode of Justice Not Vengeance. This is a comic review of the one and only Dark Web. Or should I say, this is a comic review event? Yeah, I have quite a few. I read the first 9 issues to the Dark Web event. Let's begin. The Spider Man Dark Web has a multitude of bags of feelings and mixed artwork. For every issue that had great artwork, the others didn't. This is only part one of the Dark Web event. There's a total of 9 comics that all have a tie in to the main story, Dark Web. The Dark Web story is about 2 clones, one of Spider Man, Chasm, and another clone goes by Goblin Queen, who's a clone of Jean Grey. The story is they both want their memory back from the original. So to tell this story, the comics venture off into 9 separate comics that tie in together for the month of December. This review is for part one of that tie-in. You start with Dark Web Dusk. Then you move on to X-Men. Then you move on to Mary Jane and Black Cat. Then you move on to Miss Marvel #1 Dark Web. Then you read Goblin #2. Then you read Venom #14. And last, you go back to X-Men #2 Dark Web. Each story ties in, and everyone has a connection to the Goblin Queen. One thing I can say about this event, so far the story hasn't been too eventful. There have been many times where the story tends to fall flat because of the choice of villain. And it's not to say that Madeline and Chasm aren't great villains. They're not bad villains. They're not really great either. But it's the way the writer chose to use them that makes the story fall flat at times. There are times where you can see things become childlike. For instance, the choice to have Madeline use Limbo as an attack to throw everything into chaos is fine. It has some originality to it, but then things fall flat on how things are being done. For example, Goblin Queen Madeline, she has this organ that she plays to conduct her chaos magic. Using that, she sends demons to New York City. Of course, this is around Christmas time. But the demons possess cars, fire trucks, trees, and even baby strollers. That's where things fall off. That's where things become boring. Things become childlike. And it's not to say there couldn't have been any originality to that. It's just here we have this event. You're thinking it's going to be really powerful stuff happening, and they choose to use items like that. And on top of that, all of the demons have the same personality. They're very goofy, very childlike. This one demon that possessed the kid's baby stroller made a joke saying, "Hey, I was going to eat that," when the mother took the baby out of the stroller. One time is fine, but it happens throughout the entire time. I was reading Spider-Man #15, and there's a joke in there as well where he's fighting Chasm. No, I'm sorry, he's fighting Venom, and he makes a fire joke because Venom symbiote, originally is supposed to be weak to fire. But Venom said that's not going to work. And Spider-Man said, "Oh, this fire's not for you. This is for the trees." And behind him, there's like 30 demonic trees that are all scared of fire. And so, like, they eek and run. That type of stuff takes away. And it happens throughout each single version of whatever you're going to read. And Mary Jane's Black Cat, this might be the weakest one. This one, and Miss Marvel. These are probably the weakest comics in this event. This one being the weakest, it felt random. It felt so random why they're even in here. Um, I get both characters have tie-ins with Spider-Man, but they feel out of place. They threw them in just to get kidnapped and fight back. Mary Jane has powers now, and they're not cool powers. It feels like these powers should have been on My Hero Academia. I don't know if you guys read manga or watch anime, but that's where the powers feel like they're random and they're not in her control, or so to speak. But this one was also, this is the first Miss Marvel comic I've ever touched, and this is probably the only time I'll touch it, except for the event that it ties in with. Her story ties in well. The writers made sure to tie her story in well with the event, but the choice of dialogue is always a problem with these type of comics. There's a panel where she's talking to her friend, her other intern coworker, and he's trying to date her, but she's like, I want to focus on myself, and he's not taking it that way. He's like, oh, is it because I'm Hindu? So completely ignoring what she was saying. I feel like the writers went out of their way to put that in there. Another example, she saves him. He gets knocked out by the demonic entities that are taking over beakers and test tubes, and she, and kind of in the disguise. So he comes to, and he's like, oh, Captain Marvel's here. Sorry, Miss Marvel's here. And she's like, yeah, you should get out of here. And he mentions Kamala, who she is. And he said, have you seen her? We were together. And she said, yeah, she mentioned you. And she also told you to get to safety. And he said, oh, that's great. But the last time I seen her, she was turning me down. And they had dialogue about that back and forth. Why does Miss Marvel even care to defend Kamala? That type of stuff right there is what made this story weaker. But overall, I think the stories could have been a little better. The Venom story was cool. The Venom story was awesome, actually. This is probably the best one throughout the entire event so far. This is like the number one. I would say get Venom 14. This one, the artwork stayed consistent. The story definitely tied in really good. There's a part where Venom kind of loses himself because of Goblin Queen putting a spell on him. And you see it, and man, dude just takes over. And then at the end, we get this, I don't want to spoil it for you guys, but let's just say things kind of changed for him. I would recommend Venom 14. If you want to read this Dark Web event, you'll have to get all of them to kind of get pieces to the puzzle. This one was sort of a so-so. Goblin number 2. Gold Goblin number 2 is a so-so comic throughout the story. It fits in smaller pieces. Again, it's not part of the main, but it sort of ties in. So I would say get it if not. But overall, the story to Dark Web, if I had to rate it, I probably would give it a 3. For mediocre, I think there is dialogue choices that could have been better. I didn't want to spoil much for you guys, but I think the choice of how the villains play out, it could have been better. Actually, it could have been a lot better. I get the clones want their memories back, but that's kind of a weak story to me. Why not just be evil instead of being evil with some type of weird cause that most people probably won't care about? Yeah, Dark Web, the event started. By the time this video comes out, the January edition of Gold Goblin number 4 should be out. Going to pick it up. Zeb Wells, Adam Curbit, Frank Martin. You guys could do a little better than that. Part 1 has been done. I've reviewed it, and this is my review. Yeah, hopefully things get better. But don't forget to go ahead and join the website at www.justicenotvengeance.com. That's all one word, folks. Peace.